Okay, welcome to part 2 of higher dimensional geometries in a hermetic magic circle. I'm Mike Morgan. Welcome to the Gnostic Sphere. Now, we were talking about higher dimensional geometries, and I went through all the platonic solids and a torus and all of that. What does that mean? What does that mean? What's it got to do with a magic circle? Well, as I said before, this is for the advanced student or someone aspiring to be an advanced student that practices the lesser and supreme rites of the pentagram. What does it have to do? Well, it also, what we're doing, as you know before, if you've watched my previous videos or if you're an initiate that knows, you're creating a hypercube, a fourth dimensional cube when you create the lesser, when you make a magic circle using the lesser pentagram rites, whether they be banishing or invoking. The major difference between banishing and invoking, not only is the intent, banishing cleans out, invoking draws in. The invocation, the major difference in the LIRP or the LIRP from the BRP, banishing ritual of the pentagram, we just drop the L, the lesser, it's assumed, and it just sounds better, burp. You burp, or banishing ritual of the pentagram, and the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram, the SERP, burp the LIRP, burp BRH, banishing ritual of the hexagram. You do the pentagrams and the hexagrams, the banish, invoke. It's burp the LIRP and pour syrup on it. So that's just a little mnemonic. As a joke, we would say, it's time to burp the LIRP and pour some syrup. What you're doing is creating a hypercube in the lesser rites. Okay, and a hypercube, think of it also as a cube within a cube. I should have drew you a little thing on it, but you've seen it in the other videos where I'm showing you that little model with the pipe cleaners and the styrofoam balls. Okay, and it's a cube within a cube, and it also has an octahedron on the center, and the octahedron has the 7 or 8 different letters that are used in the 4 god names of the quarters: Yod He Vav He, Adonai, Adonai, Yahovah, or Yod He Vav He, Ihayah, or Ihaye, and Aglah. And you can think of those almost like, remember the old school the typewriters that had the ball in the center with all the letters, the alphanumeric symbols on it, and it would spin around and punch the paper. That's what that octahedron's doing, in the center. Also, it's a cube. Remember how the octahedron tessellates to the cube, and the cube to the octahedron. The 6 faces and 8 vortices of the cube correspond to the 8 faces and 6 vertices of the octahedron. Now, they're spinning out and making the letters as you're pronouncing them and visualizing them going forth. You draw the pentagram first in the lesser rites, as opposed to the supreme rite. You vibrate as you're drawing them, because it's already established. But you've got to have something to empower, so you draw the pent first and visualize it in blue flaming line segments of the pentagram, and then charge it and feel the force move through you as you invoked it first in the Kabbalistic cross. See yourself vibrating white light, and then drawing in the astral the flaming blue of the pentagrams. And again, because the mind is what's creating it, the visualizations are important, the vibration of sound is important, although you can use the magic voice if you're a little more advanced and you've done it a lot. You can do that by internally hearing it. If if you're visiting someplace or you need to do magic, then you can't be very loud, or you got paper thin walls and you're in a hotel room, or whatever the case may be, and you don't want to draw too much attention to you from the muggles, from the non-initiates, or from people that would look at you and think you a freak, vibrating the barbarous names of some dead language. That may get you in trouble. Or if you're at a restaurant, like I did use the magic voice one time. We were waiting around on a table, and there was a table full of these little punk rocker teenagers, and wanted that table, so I created a lesser banishing pentagram in my mind and flung it at the table, and within 30 seconds they all got up and left and we got seated. But of course, because I was surrounded by people in a public place, I didn't want to stand there vibrating Yod Hey Vav Hey. You know, we'd have got escorted out by security. But nonetheless, little things like that. If you can use the physical voice, do it, because it involves the physical body in accordance with the mind. It vibrates the air around you and makes it more physical, because you want to include all levels. That's the whole point of this, is to create as God does, or the gods do, by first starting in the divine realm with the God names, then drawing it down to the creative realm, invoking the archangels, which hail from the realm and the world of the creative, or Briatic. And then bringing it into the astral realm through the middle pillar and the caduceus, which is the symbol of the DNA, bringing it all the way down into the body. And then also what unifies it and anchors it in is the vibration of your voice. To vibrate the air of the sacred space. And we're all used to cubes. Every room, 4 walls, a ceiling, and a floor. That's a cube. You know, Western man, most of mankind is archaeologically just fixated and consumed and obsessed with cubes. And you just think of a cube within a cube, all right? When you complete that, also the octahedron is formed through the lesser invoking by putting the top pyramid, or the apex of the pyramid, drawing a pentagram there, an invoking pentagram, and drawing down the Shekinah El, the marriage of the masculine and the feminine. And that makes the loop that turns and spins the hypercube from the inside to the outside, the inside to the outside. I don't know if any of you have seen that graphic of the tesseract, which is another common name for the hypercube. It's also known as a tesseract. It's continually going from the inside to the outside, just spinning inside to the outside. It's very much like a torus, except the masculine form of a torus. Think of the hypercube as the fully masculinated form of the feminine, purely feminine, non-pointed torus, all curvy lines. And as it's turning and churning, you've got that octahedron that you've made by using the God names of the lesser pentagram rite. And you're visualizing that. Now, the hypercube also, think of it as 4 truncated pyramids folded in on one another. The 4 quarters, each, when you do the God name, you form the greater cube on the outside, and then you go back and you perform and invoke the archangels, and they fill up the space between the inner and the outer. The outer being the divine that you pushed out and went out to the realm, to the as big as you want to make your magic circle, and then the archangels stand in the space between the inner cube and the outer cube. And if you think as a pyramid, a truncated pyramid, just visualize a pyramid in your mind and cut it about 1/3 of the way down and take the top off. You take one of those, that's one side, you take 4 of them and stack them. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have a hypercube. You have a hypercube with those 4 God names and those 4 archangels. The 4 God names make the outer cube. The 4 archangels make the boundaries of the inner cube. The top pentagram, the Shekinah El, energizes the whole structure, and it begins to turn and whirl. And then also you can see where at the end of the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram, the magician states, "For around and about me flames the pentagram," or turns or spins the pentagram, and in the center shines this, or in the column shines the 6th rayed star. Now that 6th rayed star is a hint of what's going to come next with the hexagram rituals, but it also is a way, remember when I said you take the cube, and one way of looking at the cube, if you shine a light if you have a light source behind the cube, you get, see, just look at the perimeter, just look at the edges. One, you know, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges on the perimeter. If you take out all that thing in the center, what is that? That is a hexagram, or a hexagon. A hexagon. 6 sides. The cube and the hypercube becomes the 6th-rayed star. And you lock it in place from spinning around. You lock that octahedron from spinning by performing the banishing rite of the hexagram. And you notice, particularly in the Golden Dawn style, you use the elemental hexes, because you went from the pentagram, primarily an elemental symbol of the 5 elements, to the elemental hexes. And they are stationed a little different than east being air, south being fire, west being water, and north being earth. In the lesser banishing hexagram, those are tilted and switched. So it locks in. It creates almost like a Mobius strip when you unite the elements of the lesser pentagram with the elements of the lesser hexagram, and it stabilizes it. It literally stabilizes it. Now, why would we want to use the 5 and the 6th? Well, here's also another little known thing, but is quite obvious. The pentagram is a symbol of the microcosm, which is the subjective, or the psyche. It's communication between minds. Has to be 180 degrees. In order for me to understand you and you to understand me, for us to truly comprehend one another and to communicate, the psyche must turn like a flip 180 degrees. And then when we do that, it's called sympathy. Or we can sympathize with someone because we feel, or we empathize with them. In order to empathize, that has to be, you have to flip the inside from the outside. You got to turn completely 180 degrees in order for communication between humans to occur. In order for me to empathize with you, to feel what you feel, for you to feel what I feel, so on and so forth. How is with the hexagram, which is the symbol of objective or physical reality, communication between physics and chemistry, it's only a 90 degree. I've got 9, but I forgot the 0. I meant to put 90 there. It's not 9 degrees, it's 90. But the reason being, if you notice the inside, you know, if you make a pentagram, there's a pentagon in the center. And then if you make another pentagram inside of that pentagram from the middle, look, the top, see here, the apex is there. With the pentagram on the center, boom, it's exactly 180 degrees turn. So even our geometry and mathematics tells us this principle. That's where we obtain it first from. And then over here with the hexagon, the objective realm, look at the inside. Look at the inside here. It is only switched, look, 90 degrees. You go from this top to boom, right there. See, this is switched 90 degrees from the top. So you've got a 90-degree shift in order to communicate with physics or chemistry. In order to affect the outside world, you need to only turn it 90 degrees. That's why we use hexagram rites only when we're doing objective magic, when we literally want to create change outside of ourselves. If we're only doing path workings, or only calling upon our higher self, or only doing magic to work on the inner temple, the inner man, we only use the pentagram rites. We use the pentagram and hexagram rites when we want to create an artificial elemental, send energy as a healing or a blessing, or, God forbid, a curse. But, you know, it's possible. What creates black magic is the intent. Magic is simply magic, just like science is simply science. You can use science to heal the sick and come up with drugs and medicines that help people and get rid of diabetes and paralysis and open heart surgery and clean somebody's heart out or make a transplant, or you can use medicine to kill someone, or you can use science to create a nuclear bomb. The hammer, it's not the hammer's fault if, you know, you go and bash your neighbor's head in. That's using the hammer as a negative way. It's like magic. Magic is that hammer. You can use it to build a house, or you can use it to destroy your enemy. Somebody that deserves it or not. It's not magic's fault. So anyway, it's there. We use the hexagram to affect outer reality. Now, where does the Supreme invoking ritual come in? There is what we have. If you notice, and if you know the rites, I'm not going to go over it. This is for the advanced student. You have 2 pentagrams in each quarter. And the first one is in Hebrew, and the second one is in Enochian. And then you have also 2 other symbols. You use the zodiacal symbol. And the archangels that are invoked are the Enochian kings from the swirling center on the inside center of every watchtower and every corner. Now, again, let's get back to the Supreme invoking ritual, the pentagram. There's 8 pentagrams added, 2 in each quarter. Now, if you add that to the 4 that's already up from the lesser rites, when you link them and you finish it, you've got 4 pentagrams from the lesser, and 8 newly added ones from the Supreme. That's 8 plus 4, that's 12. What do you get? You get a dodecahedron, which is elemental spirit or ether, and they're also the zodiacal. You lock in the zodiacal, so you go all the way from the galactic down to the genetic with the caduceus and the physical realm that we started out from with the lesser invoking ritual, the pentagram. So we go from the elemental, and then if we're going to use true magic and lock in elemental banishing with the hex, then the supreme invoking hex, we step it up to the 7 planets, and then at the supreme invoking ritual, the pentagram, we lock it in from the zodiacal, which is galactic in nature. So you go all the way from the individual genetic energy, expanding step by step through the worlds and through the planes, all the way to the outer rims of the Milky Way, and using the galactic energy all the way to the individual DNA. And if there's not enough energy for you, I don't know what to tell you. But it also, the Supreme invoking ritual, the pentagram, utilizes both Hebrew and Enochian. As we said before, Hebrew is the local magic language that's, you know, if you don't like Hebrew, you can use others. There's others, you know, Tibetan, Chinese, Greek, things of that nature, Babylonian or Sanskrit. I prefer Hebrew. That's just how I do it, you know. But you've got the Rose Cross, baby. But anyway, so once you've completed the SERP, you've got a dodecahedron outside of a hypercube, with also if you do the banishing and invoking of the lesser ritual, the pentagram, you also have a pyramid that's ignited and been the central thing for a torus. So you've got a torus, a pyramid on a mirror. If you treat the floor like a mirror, it will be an octahedron. And then when you switch after the banishing ritual, the hex, you shrink it all down, have that hypercube and octahedron in the center of your space, and as you extend outward, you make that octahedron. And then you're in the center of this huge soccer ball with a hypercube, with all of it, with a torus going around. It's a tremendous amount of energy. It's difficult at first. It takes many practices to get all of those levels in your head and still keep the right in mind with the intent of what you're trying to do. So it's worth the time, effort, and energy, because with magic, of course, you get out what you put in. Okay? Thank you all very much. This is Michael Morgan, Signing off for the Gnostic Sphere. See you soon. Agape.